Yep. What's the first thing we always have to look for when factoring a polynomial?
The x.
Looking for a greatest common factor. Do I have one with this one? I do?
No.
No, I don't. 25, 20, and 4 don't all have the same common factor. 25 and 20 do. 20 and 4 do. But all three don't have the same one. Okay? So I can't factor out a GCF. And I'm still stuck with a leading coefficient. So I'm going to have to apply a different technique. All right? There's 2 or 3 different methods. I'm going to focus on the factoring by grouping. Okay? The reason I want to do that is because, 1, it's less likely to miss steps when you factor by grouping. 2, it's the most popular among factoring methods for these types of trinomials. All right? But if you come see me during tutorial hours, I'm more than happy to teach you a second method. Okay? So, we're still going to end up in the same format of x plus or minus a number, x plus or minus a number. It was still open. You just had to. The only difference is, because we have this leading coefficient, when we multiply x times x, I need to have coefficients here so that I end up with 25x. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to figure out what those are as well. I still need to find 2 numbers that sum to give me 20. But instead of 2 numbers that also multiply or give me a product of 4, I want a product of 25 times 4, which is 100. So we're going to multiply A times C. We're going to take 100 and we're going to find a number that multiplies to give me 100 but adds to give me 20. What 2 numbers do that? 10 times 10. Okay? So 10 times 10 gives me 100. 10 plus 10 gives me 20. Okay? So I'm going to use 10 and 10. But those aren't the numbers that are going in these blanks. Okay? What I'm going to do with this 10 and 10 is I'm actually going to split the 20x into 2 terms, 10x and 10x. All right? So I'm going to rewrite my trinomial. My quadratic will be 25x squared plus 10x plus 10x plus 4. These are still identical. The only difference is 20x is now 2 terms instead of just 1. The important thing with that is it now allows us to factor by grouping. Now that I have 4 terms, I can factor by grouping. What's my greatest common factor for the first 2 terms? 5x, which will leave me with 5x plus 2. What's my common factor for the second set of terms? 2, which leaves me with 5x plus 2. So I have, these are the same, so that's one of my factors, 5x plus 2. And then I take the other 2 terms, which also happen to be 5x plus 2. And then when I have the same factors twice, how do I simplify that? 5x plus 2 quantity squared. Okay? Now that won't always happen with these. This just happens to be what we call a special case of a perfect square trinomial. That won't always happen, but we're still going to be following that same pattern. Boys, generally it's better to write it down rather than take a picture because you're engaging the muscle memory while you do it. If you have new paper, have some. Would you like some paper?
No, I don't.
You want some paper too? Alright. So, let's do it again. What do I have to check for first? Greatest common factor. Do I have one? No, I don't. You won't for most of them, but sometimes you will. And if you miss it, you're going to screw up the whole process. So always check for it. Okay? All right. So I need a sum of what?
41.
Close.
Negative 41.
Negative 41. That negative is very important. Okay. I need a sum of negative 41. I need a product of what? 210. Good. 21 times 10. All right. Again, this is where our calculator comes in handy because trying to find factor pairs of 210 is going to be really annoying, right? So let's bust out our calculator. That. And let's get our factor pairs. 210 divided by x second table. Now, my product is positive, but my sum is negative. So what does that tell me about the signs of my two factors? That would give me a negative product. Positive. They both have to be negative. Positive product, negative sum, they both have to be negative. So here's a list of all my negatives. Which of these will sum, which of these pairs will sum to negative 41? Negative 35 and negative 6. Okay? So I look through my factor pairs. I see that these will sum to what I need, negative 41. So that's what I'm going to use. Okay? Let's go back here. All right. So the numbers that I'm going to use, negative 6, negative 35. So I'm going to take negative 41 and I'm going to split it into those two numbers and rewrite the trinomial. Now, most of the time the order doesn't matter. But if you find that you can't factor out something from your two terms, just switch the order, and sometimes it helps it, it fixes it. Most of the time the order doesn't matter, but sometimes it does. Switching it will fix the problem. Okay, so whether you do negative 6x minus 35x or negative 35x minus 6x, you should be fine either way. All right? So let's go ahead and do our grouping. GCF for 21x squared minus 6x. All right, which leaves me with what? Okay. Next set. Close. Negative 5. Because remember, I want this negative 35 to turn to a positive 7. So we're going to factor out that negative. 7x, and then 10 divided by negative 5 gives me that negative 2. Make sure that those are the same. Make sure they are exactly the same. Okay? 7x minus 2 is one of them. What's my other factor? Okay? Dude, seriously? If you take a picture of my screen again, I'm taking your iPad. All right. Last one. What do I do first? Do I have one?
Yeah.
Yes. What is it?
2.
And?
6.
Almost there.
Y squared.
2y squared. 2. Okay.
Wait, why would it be 2?
So 6, 2, and 60 have a common factor of 2.
Oh, okay.
All terms have a y squared.
Okay.
Not all of them have an x. So when I factor that out, what's my new trinomial?
3x squared
3x squared minus x.
Good. Now, we're not going to do anything else with the 2y squared. It's just going to come along for the ride. Okay? So you're going to rewrite it with each step, but you're doing nothing else with it. Okay? It's still part of your final answer. We're just going to focus on this new trinomial, 3x squared minus x minus 30. What do I need a sum of? Negative 1. What do I need a product of? Negative 90. Okay? So I need a sum of negative 1. That's this right here. I need a product of negative 90. So what two numbers multiply to give me negative 90 and a negative 1 when I add them? No, sorry, fine. Multiply to give me negative 90, but add to give me negative 1. 10 and 9. Negative 10, positive 9. Okay? Negative 10 and a positive 9. Okay? So I'm going to take negative 1x and I'm going to split it to be a 9x and a negative 10x. Okay? So I'm going to bring down my 3x squared plus 9x minus 10x minus 30. 2y squared comes along for the ride, and now we do our grouping. What's my factor? 3x. What am I left with? Good. What's my factor? I want the greatest common. I want to make sure that I also end up with exactly this binomial. Negative 10. Okay? That's there. 2y squared comes along for the ride. Alright? So I've got 2y squared. Alright? What's one of my other factors? 3x minus 10. And then what's my last factor? X plus 3. Done.